What is going on? This is Future Mike. I'm in here to say I'm trying to make an intro for this video because I did not record one before I decided to split it into 2 videos. If you saw part 1, I hope you enjoyed it. Don't worry, the beard's still here and the beard's still growing. I trimmed it, but I didn't cut it down. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm gonna go back in the past. This is more about the demons that you can choose to play in GvG. I go through all the ones that I have, which ones are really awesome ones, and one that I don't have that I think is really great. Let me know which ones you use in the comment section. I'm gonna go ahead and get back to this. Oh, also, I might interrupt this video today with a video of my pulls because I just can't wait. I just cannot wait. Yes, you can see half of my setup. You can see the light, you can see the panel over here, and the light over here, and the triple screen stuff in front of me right now. This is what I do. I appreciate you guys. This is Future Mike, coming from the future, because I thought about this after I should have done it. You guys have a good one. See you soon. I'll be honest about this. I'm not touching much of these guys here, but this guy is an exception. I'm talking about him. This guy is, interestingly enough, he's pretty tanky. He's not like, a tank, but he could take a few hits. His attack is stupidly strong. It attacks, I think it's either a 9-grid or like a plus symbol, which is funny, I'm doing that when it's like a mage. He has incredible damage. I've seen him take down an entire team by himself, just one, and he just walked up and killed everything. Him attacking in that T damage right there, T range, is really, really nice. And you see even in this video, he's doing a pretty good job of taking some hits. You don't want him in the forefront, of course. I was more surprised by my mages weren't doing damage to back units. So maybe just this guy that does that, because the mages weren't doing anything to Wrath. And Wrath is usually built a little flimsy, so I think let's try him. All right, so yeah, want to talk about that guy. This is the Demon Soldier Bookkeeper. Ooh, pro tip. Here's a good pro tip for you guys. If you ever see a warrior or a demon soldier that you want to use in this game and you don't know how to get them, click that tiny plus button next to the shard count that shows that you don't have them yet. If you click it, it shows you where you can get stuff for them. So in this case, you can get them in Guild Boss, you can get them in Void Rift, but the one that you can control the best is Gear Raid 1. So if you do a bunch of Gear Raid 1, you're more likely to get shards or this champion. So that's a good way for you to know how to get some of these guys. If you're like, dang, I really want to get that one, then you can farm more of that content. So I will say this, the cool thing about this guy, Demon Captain, he's also in Gear Raid 1. So I've been doing a lot of Gear Raid 1 runs because I want to get a chance to get these also. It's just good to know. It's good for you guys to be informed about it. I don't know much about the guy. When I get him, I'll tell you more. But I personally tend to stay away from the rare options, mainly because the rare options are usually very frail and pale in comparison to the legendary options. This guy right here actually does pretty surprisingly good damage. Surprisingly good damage, but he's a little slow. They only send 2 out at a time. He's very low cost, so if you want to do like a rush strategy, he's a really good filler if you have a main attacker already doing damage. So if you send your tank out, you can send these guys out as like a substitute for your cleavers. If you want to send a higher volume and get damage out pretty quick, they're good options for dealing damage. I usually don't use these guys though because I already have the cleavers and I prefer the cleavers. But that being said, if you wanted an option to send a cleaver and a whole bunch of other melee fighters at once, these guys are good assistant roles for it. So still good ones. None of these guys are like terrible. I'll be honest, none of them are terrible. All of them have their uses. The doggos, you start off with these, they are wonderful. They are great, but you have to have your timing down. If you do not have your timing down, you are wasting energies with these guys. And when you send these guys out, it's only 2 as rare. When they're epics, you send out 3. Cost is higher also. You want to send these guys out when the enemy team has just burned their ultimates and there's an opening for you to slip past enough enemies to override the block count that they have. So always assume that the tanks, the defenders, have 4 block. They can have 5, usually that's not the case. That might have been why Olog took me down there earlier, because he was doing his ultimate. That could be why. Now I understand why. Logic just said it. Nice. These guys are good as a rare option. You really want the epic ones. When you get the epic ones, you probably won't use the rare ones anymore because the cost of using the epic ones is going to make it where you won't really have a chance to put these guys out fast enough to override. So they're very weak. So you, like I said, you want to do it around the time when the other enemy team is wasting their ultimates or AoE attacks, anything that's going to make it easy for them to die. That's when you want to use these guys. They're wonderful for turning the tide in the battle, especially when you think you're gonna lose. You rush those dogs in and many times they get by. I don't recommend the spiders as much, but I will say if you're starting, they're great if you're fighting a tanky team that can't dish out heavy damage, or they're pretty occupied with fighting something else. These guys are wonderful if the team you're fighting is a single target focused team. You send out 8 of these bad boys, if they don't have an AoE option, or if you can take out the AoE option, the Mage, or like the AoE marksman or whatnot, if you can take them out, these guys can sneak right on through. Problem is they're very, very, very squishy. If you look at the list here, D, 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 A. Their stats aren't the greatest, but they do have speed and they do have quantity. So you can send a bunch of these guys out if you want to try that override strategy, but it's risky. I would be mindful of what attacks my enemies are doing. If they're doing AoE attacks, this is a no-go. If they're doing AoE attacks and that hasn't been disabled, these guys get killed way too quickly. So I wouldn't recommend them for many cases. Good if it's the only thing you have, but use them wisely. Don't just put them out there and think they're gonna do the job. These guys are a watered down version of the archers that people prefer to use. The elite skeleton archer, they don't do much damage. I don't recommend using these guys that often, especially when you get the epic one. You will never touch these guys again. Because it's just the damage they do isn't amazing enough. You see everything's in C, that's not very high. So the only benefit they have is speed, which means they're gonna walk faster and get killed. Now, that being said, there is a benefit to that. So if you have a bunch of tanks up there doing damage, you can send these guys in and they'll cover more ground to get to the fight faster, which is better for things like a fortress, which is good for that. But for the most part, I don't use this guy. I'll be honest, I do not use this demon soldier. I use these guys more often than I'm willing to admit. I use these guys pretty often because they're area units. That alone makes them really amazing options. Because if you're fighting a team that does not have anti-air or just has a bunch of melee fighters and they can't hit anything in the sky, these guys are a shoe-in and they go right past everything. The only thing to be mindful of is like an arrogance, because he can attack aerial targets. There's a couple other ones that attack aerial targets, and any marksman, primarily marksman, that prioritize air targets. So they'll stop aiming at ground units to hit air targets, which will make these guys, really easy to take down. Make sure they have a clear way to get through. I do recommend check out the training content. I think there's a way that you can do all these battles, and one of them involves having to use these guys. So they're really, really useful. They're not very good on their own. Do not send these guys out by their own and just think you're gonna win. They have very, very, very light armor. You see their defense is at a C. So they can get sniped out pretty easily. But that being said, their energy cost is low. So being that the energy cost is low, you can send them out in quick succession. If you already have your tanks out there, you can get up to 6 energy, send these guys out in groups of 6. If there's no mage to stop them, they do a good job of getting past the defensive line. Very nice. And they're pretty fast. They don't stop as much to attack as I would think that they would. These guys, I will be honest, they're better than I thought they were going to be. I thought they were going to be terrible. They're mini tanks. They're mini tanks. They have a decent speed. They get into the fight. If you want to get those numbers stacked up just to build the block up on an enemy like an Olog, like in my case, I use the cleavers because I wanted to try to kill Olog. I could have just used these guys. The only problem that I have with these guys is that their energy cost is pretty high for me. 4 energy for something this not amazing, 4 cost for this. I'd rather just have melee fighters that are still decently tanky and can do a whole lot more damage. This is a direct comparison to the cleavers. You see GASBB, just so you see those ratings there. I'm going to just tap it just so you see it early. Double S ABBC. It's just night and day better. But back into the actual list, right? These guys are good. If the only one you have, they're very, very useful at being tanky. They're S's. They're S rated in defense. So good for you to remember. I don't have to worry about the skills or anything like that. Usually it's just an improvement of like their HP or their attack or their damage that, or their or like their resistance and stuff. So they're not really big to note. They're not really big adjustments. All right. Now, Scale Cannon Mage. If I'm not mistaken, this is not the healer. This is the one that does AoE damage. Yes. It can threaten platform units as well as tanks. This guy I haven't used him very often, I'll be honest. His attack is okay. His HP is not bad. He's a little tankier than you think he'd be, but his defense is low. He's only really good against magic type attackers that are hitting you. So I don't recommend using this guy that much. I haven't used him very much. I'll be completely honest. I don't use this guy a lot. I'm assuming he does decent damage because he also gets an increase of attack by 15%, but I haven't seen this guy in many battles, so I can't recommend that this guy's an amazing option. I do like the fact that his cost is low and you send 2 every time you send them, so that is a nice addition, but there's just too many tanky defenders that makes this guy really difficult to make a big impact. If he did a bunch of AoE damage, I don't believe he does AoE damage. Is there a way to check out? Is there a way to check? Yeah, it's ranged magical damage, but I don't think that it's AoE damage. I think they're single hits. If he were doing AoE damage, then I'd reconsider. I think it would be really good. But I have not used these guys enough to recommend them. I'll be honest with that. Now, when we get into the epics, these are the ones I use more often. Suicide. These guys are tough to use, but great when they pay off. Suicides are only great if the champions you're going against or the defenders you're going against have wasted their ultimate and are occupied already. They are better when they can bypass the block limit of the first champion. So if you're able to send something that can stall out and then send these bad boys, they are lovely, they're great, and they have a decent explosion range too, which is better than you would think it would be. It's not bad. Problem is they're very, very squishy. So if there's any way that they could be attacked before they can get to the defender or the fighter in front of them, they're not gonna make it. They are not that tanky. I would not trust them to get that far up there. I send these guys in when it's busy and I need that big burst of damage, and I know that they won't be prioritized or the guys in front of them won't die before they get there. So good for you guys to know. They have decent speed, so they can get up there pretty quickly. I have not used these guys a lot. Necromancer, I have not touched them a lot. I think I just tried them in the last one. I don't think I even activated them. But these guys, they summon skeleton fighters continuously, make it extremely suitable for countering lineups that are weak in offense but strong in defense. So this is built primarily for tanky teams like that Elder team. Now, I will say this. Here's something very interesting. Look at this video. When they summon the mages, when they summon the champions, they summon them to the side. That is a big deal. I'm gonna tell you why. This is a big deal for champions that have long ranges, but they only aim in one direction. This is interesting for champions that you just want to divert their attacks to where they're not hitting your guys early on. So it's an interesting option. You only get one and the energy is 5, but he would make an interesting opening for something like the Cleavers to come through. If there's not a Valkyr or Ardea behind them that can attack above or Cyrus, he would make them attack out of the original path that they're attacking. He also would be wonderful because he helps you waste the ultimates of the enemy team. That's something also good to know. For 5 energy costs, you can burn that, still have a champion on the field, and still use them. I would prefer to use this guy in the fortress instead of the strongholds. Strongholds is just such a short distance that by the time you got this guy here, you notice he's basically already in attack range to get hit. So that's why I'm really careful about where you would use this guy. I think he's better for fortress. That's my personal opinion. But I love the fact that he sends mages on a lower level or a higher level, which means that he can divert their attention to a different direction, which makes it a little bit easier for your guys to make it in there and do damage. This is also a really good combination with your ranged attackers. Even when they get in range, if that skeleton is still alive, they're only hitting that skeleton over there. None of the fire is focused on the other enemies, on the other guys that you're using. It's a good champion, it's a good option. I haven't used them a whole lot, but some really good options of where you can use them. Also remember this too, this is a pro tip. Check that armor type. The armor type also lets you know what they're strong against and weak against. So this person has, this one has light armor. If they have light armor, they receive more damage from piercing. Only from piercing, receive more damage. Magic gets more damage on heavier armor, like the tankier units, but piercing enemies do more damage on these guys. So I tapped the light armor icon to see that. I always wondered where this was. I just happened to be making a video and found it. These guys are called the Squid Crow Pro. The Squid Pro, the Squid Pro, Squid Crow Pro, Squid Quo Pro. I still mix it up every time I say it. Squid Quo Pro. I always say what I like about these guys is they're a little bit tankier and a little bit faster than most of the big group options, save for the dogs. The dogs are still S tier. I like the fact that a bunch of these guys show up. I'm not really concerned about their attack. It looks like they should do really amazing attacks with that face, but those eyeballs look real squishy. I like these guys because it's 4 of them. They're decently tanky. They're not amazing, but they do a good job of getting past the group. I will say one thing I like about these guys is they're like the gunk as well. You can send them out in 2 waves of 5. If you already have tanks out, the tanks are occupying damage, and there's no AoE options out there to stop you. These guys are really good at setting the ground for your dogs. So what I would do in the case, if I were using these guys, I would send my tank out first. My tank's gonna go up there and soak damage, get rid of all the ultimates. I send 2 waves of these guys, and if they're able to survive, if the AoE option they have out there is dead, or if they just can't deal decent damage, you don't have the ultimate back, I will send the dogs while these guys still have a few of them alive, and the dogs will skip past a bunch of the blocks. So that's the only reason I would really use these guys, is for Bolt to get to that shard. I don't count on them for doing heavy damage. You even see right now in the video, they're doing meager damage against Olag. It's nothing impressive. Again, these are less recommended than the dogs. Just being real with you. Next up, it's my second favorite tank. Awesome. He wears common armor, which is great, which means he doesn't have any extra damage done to him. So he's just straight tanky. He's just straight meaty boy. That being said, like I said before, make sure you affiliate your champions. You don't have to do them here. You can click quick affiliate, and it usually does a good enough job for you to go in there and do your battle. But make sure you do that, or your tanks will get slaughtered so easy and you don't realize why. Look right now, it says level 2. You see the little cross swords, 2579, just so you see a difference in it. I'm gonna just click Silas here. Silas is probably my best champion here. Affiliate, that goes to 75,357. It's a big difference. Do not miss quick affiliation. You see how crazy those stats went to the right? He now has over 1 million health, 1.7 million health. Jumping into the attributes, this guy is amazing all around in every place you need him in. He's inexpensive for a tank. He's at 4. Most of the tanks I use are at 6. So that means he can go with some combinations. I prefer to wait until my tank is real close to the other enemies, because then I can send minions down the lane, because I've gotten a group stack, I've gotten an energy stack high enough to send out groups of enemies. I try to avoid sending out enemies one at a time unless they are tanks. Tanks are the exception. Everything else I try to send out in groups of 2 if I can. Attack A, HP A, defense A, magical resistance A. Doesn't take any additional damage because it's common armor. Speed is at a C, which is great because you don't want your tank rushing out there to take damage. You want them to take their time and allow you to get your energy up to get your demons that assist them in battle. So this is a really good champion. I really like using this guy. I use this guy if I know I'm going to be using a bunch of tanks. Usually isn't the case, but also remember this too. This guy attack is an A compared to the skeleton soldiers, which is a D, which means they're not doing much damage at all. They're just there to hold up block. This guy's at an A as he gets there. So he's going to do really good damage as well, as long as he's alive. This guy's awesome. This healer is awesome. This healer is awesome with your tanks. If you want your tank to last longer, put this guy out there in the battle. Also gets an additional bonus right here. When adjacent allies' HP is lower than 80% and stop moving, provides continuous healing to nearby allies for a maximum of 10 seconds. This is great because your tank's gonna be right there at the gate. Your melee fighters are gonna be right there at the gate. So this is a benefit that they get because they're holding the line and doing damage. This guy is awesome. Don't worry about when it says attack. It's really just referring to his healing. It's able to heal nearby allies periodically, a perfect match for demon soldiers with high HP. HP is awesome, defense is awesome, magic resistance is awesome. Also a tiny little, it's a little bit tanky, but you gotta watch out for your piercers because they do additional damage to him because he's a light armor champion. You probably won't be sending this guy out first because there's nothing to heal. Send this guy out there. He has a C rating in speed, so he can get to the battle quickly also, which means he can go in there and save the day. His cost is only 3 for an epic healer. His cost is only 3. I only think you need one of these guys. One's plenty enough, because chances are the tanks are going to die eventually. This is just to keep the tanks up alive long enough for you to start stockpiling like your melee fighters or your other guys are going to occupy a block. That's when it's going to be useful there. But this guy is awesome. Next up, I don't use these guys as much, but I heard that they are amazing. My feedback on them, I use them a few times. When I first used them, I didn't build them out properly, but they're surprisingly tanky. They're not insanely tanky. I'm going to affiliate this guy with even better right now because I haven't done. I'm going to just always tap this here just to try it. All right, that's my highest champ, so I just want to make sure my numbers are reflecting that. These guys are wonderful because they do a bunch of AoE damage. I love it. It says this unit continuously deals damage to nearby targets, but needs allies cover. To me, I still think they're a little bit tanky because the HP is an A, the defense is a B, and the magic resistance is a B, and they're wearing common armor, so they don't take special damage. I like these guys when I have used them because they wear down enemies. They wear down enemies, they do really good damage, they can take out a tank in a fairly good amount of time. It also really keeps your healers occupied because if one of these guys gets past the initial blocker, the damage these guys do is amazing because they're hitting everything continuously. And the only healers that are really good against that are AoE healers, which there are not as many of them. Chances are, if I see you got an AoE healer, I'm gonna just try to go for piercing damage or single target damage and make your AoE healer have a hard day. But these guys are awesome. These Scourge guys are really good. I do recommend getting them. But pro tip, saying it right now, tap this here, do not buy them from the shop. Do not buy them from the shop. They're way too expensive. You get like one shard. Do not buy it from the shop. Just farm the place in the game where you can get them. If you want to know where you can get them, I think you can you tap in the shop? I'm gonna check. Yeah, that's this right here. That's the other, wait, they changed them. Oh, nice. So they rotated them, but you couldn't originally buy that guy in the shop. You could buy some individual shards. I need to stop affiliating these guys because I'm mixing up my list here. But the passive is the most important thing to look at here. The Scourge spreads dangerous plagues, dealing sustained magical damage to targets near it. Magical damage is great against your heavy armor enemies, aka your tanks. So it's really useful against tanks primarily, and also hitting the other guys there. If you're able to book that block count of the tank and he gets past the tank, his damage is spectacular. He's really good, and he can survive long enough to do really, really insane damage. He's insane if you send two of them. But that's gonna be tough to do because you still gotta get that block up. This is a case where the skeleton warriors would be good because you send those guys in first, or you send your tank in first, you send those guys in next, and then you would send these guys in and they slip past the block and do incredible damage beyond it, which is really nice because apparently the mages that I had didn't do a good job. So I'm about to poo-poo on them when I get to them. Before I do that though, these guys, when you get them, you will use them almost all the time to break down the defense because the damage they do is so amazing. At 6 energy, they send out 2 of them and their damage is at double S each. They are amazing damage dealer. They do super heavy damage. It's physical damage, and they get rid of fighters and they get rid of tanks. If they're going after tanks, I try to send 4, which is tough to do because you have a cost of 6 and you can't get it back up to 6 fast enough to send the next group out. And they're fairly fast, so they get into the fight fairly quickly. But these guys are good in all the areas. The lowest cost they have is a C. The lowest the attribute they have is a C, and that's for speed. Everything else is a B or higher. These guys are awesome. They're tanky. They're not a tank, but they can take enough hits to get the job done while they're in there. These guys are awesome. And it looks like they also resist crowd control attacks by 20%. So anything they're being hit with, if it's a slow that blocks for 5 seconds, it only blocks for 4. I mean, if it's a slow that blocks for 5 seconds, that's already a bad spot to be. But it cuts down the time of how long it takes. And then as you level him up to level 5, I haven't gotten there yet, it increases his attack even more. Freaking lovely. This is one of the top options for Guild v Guild. Cannot say that enough. That is one of the top options. He cuts him down. He mows the lawn. Now these guys, so what I misunderstood was I thought these guys did splash damage. Apparently they do not do splash damage. That's what cost me that last round. If they just splash damage, I'd be Gucci. I would have took them down. Wrath would have felt my wrath. Wrath would have been exhausted, would have been over. Their attack is at a B, which isn't amazing, but they do range magical damage. That being said, they send out 2 every time you send them with a cost of 4, so they're fairly inexpensive. They have a lot of C's on the board, so they're not meant to take a lot of damage, but I like the fact their speed is at a C, which means they get a lot of shots off. These guys are not bad at taking out bowmen and taking out mages, especially when they're undefended or they can't get healed fast enough. They're good at that. I thought they did splash damage. So I was mistaken and I learned that. That being said, the problem with this is there needs to be somebody in front of these guys before they go fighting, because they have light armor, which means marksman will one-shot these guys basically. Drop them so much easy. It's very quickly. Drops them very quickly. They die really easily. Next up, what the dog doing? Probably my favorite unit. If I have said that before, I take it back. This is my favorite unit. These dogs can win the majority of the matches for you. You didn't see it in the last one, but you saw it in the early ones. These dogs are such an easy button to win in this content, because for 5 energy, you send 3 of them. You stack it at 10 energy, you send 6 of them. If the block is already occupied, that is a guaranteed win, provided you wait until the ultimates of the enemy team are done, or they're not able to affect your champions or stop, do AoE damage. If they can do that, you're in a rough spot. These dogs should not be stopped. If they're stopped, they're useless. But if they can get past the crowd, they're such an easy way to win. I remember showing this to Jack in our video. I think I'll pull that up in here. I ran the team and I showed it to Jack, and I just set dogs at the end and just skip past the rest of the fight. These dogs are so good because they're such a threat. They're really good speed. Their speed is at an S. They're super fast. What I try to do is I'll summon one in the furthest block away, and then I'll summon the next one at the closest block to the front of the green tiles you can put down, so that all 6 of them are really huddled together and they sprint right through everything. It's really, really useful. These are my favorite champion. These are my favorite demon soldier options in the game, hands down. No matter what comp I use, I try to keep these guys in there because there's a good chance they can sneak past everything. They're really good. And it's also good in case you kill a champion or 2 on the other team, another hero, and now it's an easier chance for you to get them through. These guys are great. Can't say enough, those guys are great. Tanks, you know what tanks do, but look at that HP and look at that defense. He doesn't do as much damage as the other one, but that HP and defense means he's gonna be there for a long time, provided there are no single target mages out there. Mages make a mockery of this guy. And they go through him. Also, Silas does a somewhat decent job against him too. So you do want to send him with support. He only costs 5 energy, which is great. So that means you can tag team him with something early on, a little earlier. Really good. Speed is at a C. So he gets to the battle in a decent time. This guy is a great supporter for my main tank, because he just stacks it up even more. He doesn't die anytime soon. He's really good to heal. Really awesome with that healer you saw earlier. Like, it's a really good tank. If you have him, put him to work. Really good tank. Next up, my 3rd favorite unit. Can you tell I have a few? This guy right here is my main offensive champ, my main offensive option. All you got to do is see the attackers at 8. Yeah, that doesn't sound amazing, but you send 2 of them at once for 8 energy. This guy drops enemies so freaking fast. Now, the thing he doesn't do a good job against, he doesn't do a really good job against tanks. He can apply pressure, but being that his speed is at a B, he gets into the fight too quickly, he gets too close to the battle, and he takes a lot of damage and he dies. Something important to mention, defenders get aggro. Defenders are prioritized to attack in this game. So if you have defenders in this form right here, I'll do this here. If you have defenders, 1 defender's right here, and you have a mage right here and like a marksman right here, they will only attack the defender. If you have a defender right here and like a mage, like 1 ahead and like a marksman 1 ahead, if the mage and the marksman can survive being hit, once whoever's hitting them goes up 1 more tile, they'll only attack the defender. They won't continue to attack the external units. That's something to remember, but defenders are prioritized by your demons. They are prioritized. So no matter if there's an easy kill to the right of them, if they are in range of hitting the defender, they will stop attacking the other targets and go after the defenders. Unless there's something in their kit, I don't think there's anything now, but there's something in the kit that prioritizes not attacking defenders, that's a different story. But these guys prioritize, so that's something important to remember. You don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're just wasting these guys. These guys are great at dropping 1 or 2 enemies quickly. Great at it, lovely at it. These guys are the reason they had to be adjusted, and I still use them. They're still amazing. Freaking awesome. They deal high damage from afar, and they excel at attacking platforms. But you know, they're not good at fighting tanks. It even says it in the description, which I really love that about this. I'm gonna check the reviews for this one. These boys got nerfed and are still good. That's power, baby. That's all we need. Still good despite nerf. Launch 2 at a time. Remember that. Always send 2 of these guys at a time for the best results. And I'll say also, try to send them exactly on top of one another. If you do that, both of their attacks hit at the same time, it's a better chance you can get a kill outright, and your attacks aren't staggered, which means if they're staggered, there's less of a chance you can get an outright kill. If you send both shots at the same time, that's heavy damage, it can do a kill. If you don't send them at the same time, there's a chance between those shots they can be healed by the healer, and you wasted that opportunity. Good to know. Good for picking off enemy platform units placed in the open, or once tank is down, double up. That's what everybody's saying. Really good to use. Can't say enough about these guys. They're my top 3. How about that? They're my favorite attackers of actually trying to drop other enemies. They're my favorite in that case, yes. Next up, I'm gonna go to this guy here. I'm not using this guy a whole lot, but I will say this guy hits like a freaking truck. He does really good damage. It says, you can even read in the description, airborne unit that employs lightning to strike nearby enemies, dealing magic damage. He has light armor, which means he's vulnerable to piercing, so it's good to know, but he does really lovely damage. This is a guy that you send in after you sent your tanks in. Have you noticed that tanks go in first in a lot of the content in this game? I wonder why. Because they're freaking tanks. So this guy comes in and does a really good job at sniping enemies. As far as doing heavy damage, awesome. I'd still recommend you send 2 of these at once if you can, because of the amount of damage they do is amazing. And since they're aerial units, if there's nothing to attack aerial units, they can help break down the defense really well. So take note if those champions, if those aerial, if the marksmen or mages can be sniped, if they can, this is easy street. This guy's amazing. It's really awesome. Now, my favorite tank, the Knight of Destruction. I love this guy. I'm gonna affiliate him back where he rightfully belongs. Look at the score. Wait. Okay, that's with it. Okay, the score is just insane. 2.5 million health. A million health. And he can be healed. He's wearing common armor, which means he takes no special damage from any types. He's just a beefy boy. And let's look at the attack. The attack is an S. He does heavy damage also. If you have this guy's going to be your favorite tank because he is tanky, he stays there. And what's interesting, I will say this, his defense and magical resistance is an A. That's okay. I will say he is not good against Silas. Silas will melt this guy. Silas is built right. Silas will burn the entire ultimate and get rid of this guy. So still send him, or in that case, I would send, no. If that's the case, if I see a Silas and I know Silas is gonna absolutely melt him, my recommendation is to send somebody like the Necromancer, or send a low cost enemy that can proc all the ultimates of everybody out there and waste them. If not, send this guy, he'll be there for half the fight. Doing heavy damage, holding the line, amazing. My only gripe, and it's understandable, it has to be, is this cost is 6 and it sends 1. It has to be, he's this good. If they had 2 of these, you run through most comps. This guy does really high damage. I don't think he'll get this really high damage. His attack speed isn't that fast, but his hits are great and strong, which is good against champions like an Olog. If you can get a good solid hit in, I don't need fast hits. I need hard hits to break the shield and somebody else to get the kills if he doesn't get them. This guy's my favorite tank, and probably he's in every single comp that I use because I have to have something out there to soak up all the damage while everybody else gets ready. Have I covered everybody? Let's make sure. I believe that I have. What's the one that I want the most? I know there's some brand new ones out there. The one I want the most is this guy right here. Plain and simple, I want this guy because he does AoE magical damage and it's a big range. It's like a giant plus sign. I showed you that earlier. This guy is awesome. I really would love to get him, but not to belabor it, I hope you guys get some value out of this. You saw me do my attacks. It was live, it was real. And I wanted to take a moment to put this video out when I've done my homework before I make the content. I hope that you guys enjoy this. I hope that you guys do well in here. Remember, the GvG is content that is prioritized for the attackers to win. It's difficult for the defenders to win. So if you think you're gonna build an amazing shell comp, I'll be honest, it's very tough to do. There's always something that can beat them. In my case, there wasn't because I didn't have good AoE damage and I misunderstood my mages. If I had AoE there, I'd be situated, I'd be fine. I should have sent Scourges in it, huh? I would have been smart. But hey, we're good. This is Mortar Mike. I hope you guys enjoyed this content. I got some more videos I'm going to be editing today and sending out tomorrow on Friday. But I want you guys to have a wonderful day. Do something awesome today. Have a dope time. This has been your boy, Mortar Mike. I'm equipping you guys to kick butt in this game. I'm not worried about you being in the top 10, top 5%, but I want y'all to get some nice rewards. You know, legendary skill crystals on the line. Y'all have an awesome time. Y'all take care. I will see you guys soon. Oh, in the comments section, I want to know what are your favorite ones that you guys are using. And if I missed anything, I don't mind that you guys put it in the comment and let me know so I can improve what I'm learning and what I'm showing you guys. Y'all have an awesome time. See you in the comments. Shout out to you guys that's been in the chat so far. You guys are awesome because I love to do premieres with you guys. Y'all have an awesome time. I'll talk to you soon. I just did trigger fingers. Mortar, what are you up to?